Welcome to the Power Up Your Marriage and Business podcast. We're your hosts, Robert and Kaylee Fukui. I know we're supposed to say we created this podcast for you, but we really created this for us. Because one of the power struggles we witnessed growing up and now dealing with in the present is balancing the needs of the business with priorities of marriage. Does this sound familiar?
As children of entrepreneurs, we're often on the receiving end of that struggle. Parents worked so hard to provide that they did not have time for us. We realized it wasn't their fault. They did only what they knew. But not wanting to repeat the past, we've been intentional about building a business that we run as opposed to it running us.
Every day we fight to keep the priorities the priority: faith, family, and finance, or the business. Some think it's impossible, but we say it's possible. You just need to challenge the false belief that a successful business only comes at the sacrifice of your family. It doesn't have to happen that way, and we know we're not the only couple to think this way and achieve it.
If you listen to some of our past episodes and tune in for future ones, you will hear from some amazing marriage experts and entrepreneur couples that have been able to build a thriving marriage and prosperous business at the same time.
So that's why we created this podcast, to be in the front row and hear from others that have gone before us. And from time to time, we'll share what has worked for us as well. But we know there's more to learn and want to take you along for the ride with us. We may never get it perfect, but with intention, we can all build a thriving marriage and prosperous business. So thank you for listening. Sit back, get comfortable, and let's power up your marriage and business. Hey, Power Couples, and welcome to this week's special episode.
Hi, you guys!
And here's Pippi. She is our guard dog, all 5 pounds of a Yorkie. She's testing out the microphone as we speak.
And she's welcoming you all here.
So today is a special episode because today is the launch. What is it, honey?
Drum roll, please. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It is the launch of our book, Tandem.
What else, honey? Say the complete title of the book, honey.
The Married Entrepreneur Couple's Guide to Better Work-Life and Balance.
So the book is Tandem, the Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance, and is now available pretty much wherever you buy books. I mean, obviously Amazon, that's where most books are sold these days, as well as Barnes & Nobles. But definitely you can go to Amazon and purchase your book. And, you know, I know because we've got listeners all over the world, really. And unfortunately, the paperback or the hard copy version is not available everywhere. But definitely you can get the Kindle version anywhere. So go ahead.
And please leave us a review. That would mean so much to us. Because this has been I think over a year in the work just on writing the book.
Yeah. So today's episode is really dedicated to that, to the book, all the concepts is in it. And if you've been listening to our show long enough, I mean, it's nothing new under the sun per se of what we've talked about before, but it's now all consolidated into one book. And there's also even a digital workbook that goes along with it. It's almost like a course. It's really like a course that goes along with it. And all for the price of $19.99 US. You get a book, a course, and a worksheet that'll help you create greater work-life balance. You and your spouse get to work together to create a better balanced life.
And go through the workbook. And that's something that we take our couples through. And I just think, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about that because that's life-changing. And there's so much material and content in the workbook that goes along with the book.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, we're really looking at, when we finished the workbook, we really looked at it and said, okay, this should really be our template as we walk our clients through. I mean, we already have a system put together, but I think the way the workbook got put together, we're going to use that actually with our clients.
Right, and you really get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, so definitely go ahead and get the book today. And even if you just go on the website, the book website right now, the tandembook.com, links in the show notes. But you can even download the first chapter if you're not sure, if you just want to kick the tires, but you just want to see what it's kind of about. Definitely go ahead and do that. But
yeah, too. And there's another page, the tour one page, where you can go on there and see all the places we've been, where we're going. Maybe we're going to be in a neighborhood close by you where you could come and meet us in person.
Yeah. So today, on launch day, we happen to be in Philadelphia.
Yay! Oh my gosh, we're staying in this beautiful place, you guys. There's this big, huge window, humongous, and it overlooks the downtown. and it's just fun to watch people walking by and
Yeah,
watch it rain.
sometimes, it seems like it's a crapshoot when you go and register for a Airbnb. But definitely, we've always had pretty good luck with Airbnbs, and this time is great. It's right in the middle of Walnut Street, which is the high-end, basically shopping district.
Tiffany's is across the street, honey. Hint, hint, hint.
Yes, I know. Tiffany's is across the street, and so is Cleaver's, a great Philly cheesesteak.
Oh my gosh, you guys, we have been waiting for the Philly cheesesteak, and oh, it did not disappoint.
Yeah, Cleaver's is awesome. We talked to some locals, and they said don't go to Pat's and Gino's because obviously that's they're pretty famous outside of Philadelphia, but that's where all the tourists go apparently. And so they took us to a local place that was just amazing. I mean, this cheesesteak sandwich was off the hook. But anyways, it's just kind of interesting. It just worked out. I mean, this Airbnb is it's a great kind of, I guess, an apartment. Big bay windows that look down over the street. It's like I said, it's a kind of a high rent shopping district. So anyways, great part of town. Only about 20 minutes walk to Independence Hall and to see the Liberty Bell.
Yeah, that was fabulous.
Yeah, so it seems fitting to be here in Philadelphia on launch day because Philadelphia is really the home of independence and freedom.
Yes.
Right? As far as for those of you that aren't United States citizens or don't live in the U.S., that are different countries, Philadelphia, this is where they signed the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. And so this is essentially where the colonies declared their freedom from Great Britain.
Where it all began.
And, as entrepreneurs, most business owners start their business, besides to earn money, is to have freedom. Right? Greater freedom from not being stuck in a 9-to-5 job or being, having a boss over them or whatever, but having the freedom to build the business the way they see fit, to have freedom not just to be tied down to work, be able to do, live life the way they want it beyond just work.
Mm-hmm.
But the ironic thing or unfortunate thing that happens is for most business owners, years down the line that they seem to be more in bondage to their business as time goes along.
Yeah, it seems like it happens like they think, oh, I'm just going to work hard like this for a certain amount of time, a couple years, and then it easily turns into 20 years and they've been enslaved to it.
Yeah.
And you're like, have you had a vacation?
Yeah.
No, I don't have time for a vacation.
Yeah, because we've had clients from kind of in a startup phase all the way through 20 years in business or more. And regardless of how long they've been in business, they're fighting this power struggle between work and home.
Right.
And how to have that balance. And so certainly, Honey, we've shared about this in our previous podcast, but growing up, I mean, you saw from the kids' point of view of how the business was really challenging, is really impeding family time, right?
Yeah, because my dad, he worked 6 days a week, and a lot of times he would take on a second job, and we had a comfortable living, but he was never home. It was really challenging. It was hard on the family because when you're a kid, at least for my family, we just wanted dad to be home to play with us, throw the ball, catch, just hang out, do all the fatherly things, and he wasn't there. And it was really tough and hard on my family as well. And in high school, I don't even know to this day if he even showed up for my graduation.
Yeah, that's pretty
He's probably
sad.
working.
Probably sad that regardless if he was there or not, the fact that you don't remember probably means that most likely, I mean, that's just the impact that entrepreneurism had in the family, right? Is that you just expected that he probably wasn't there.
Right.
And so we want you to get the freedom you deserve and you desire. And I think with this book, and that's what this podcast is all about, is providing some tips and tricks and experiences and ideas from other entrepreneur couples that have done it, as well as from ourselves as well. But from this book, now you have kind of a consolidated, piece of content that can help you win in both marriage and business. It's just not about having a healthy marriage, but we also want you to have a very thriving and prosperous business.
Yeah, we want you to be successful in both of them.
Yeah, but that's the struggle, right? Is, as you're so engrossed into building and growing a successful business, that inevitably time is robbed away from home. And so how do you strike that balance of being able to give it all into your business, but not so much that it negatively impacts life at home.
Yeah, because you don't want the business to become the mistress, like was the case in my growing up family.
Exactly. And what good is it to succeed in business? You have a thriving business financially, but life at home is, well, sucks,
Yeah, or you
right?
lose it all, you know,
Because it definitely impacts the marriage, it impacts the relationship with your kids. I
or
remember, I
spouse.
remember just when I was first got my first real job out of college, I got a marketing degree, and my first job was working with Coca-Cola, and just observing these executives and even high performing salespeople, how they financially they seem to have it all and they seem to be very successful professionally, but their home life was kind of a wreck in a lot of times.
Yeah, it's so sad to see that
And
happen.
some of them were in their third or fourth marriages, and the ones that were still married just weren't happy.
Yeah,
And
some of them were just barely hanging on,
and
and
sometimes they're burying their work or their life into their work because life at home wasn't so good,
yeah,
right? And so,
they don't want to
anyways,
go home.
yeah. So, anyways, that's I observed that, and I was like, that's not what I want. And so, I was pretty intent, focus on work life balance, being able to, yeah, achieve professionally, but also have a life and enjoy the moment. Even when I was, wasn't married at the time when I first started with Coca Cola, but even then, you want to make sure I had a personal life, could enjoy life, and then of course, when I get married, to be able to enjoy each other, right, honey?
Right.
Because we like each other.
Like to hang out with you. I remember like when we were talking about you having your own consulting business, and then I asked you, how often did you want to travel and be away from home? Because I know some people are gone a lot, the spouses.
Yeah, and I never thought of that because I just didn't think about it. I mean, I wasn't even assuming that I was going to be traveling a lot for business when I started my consulting job. But obviously, you saw something, and so when Kaylee posed that question to me, then it got me to think. It's like, oh yeah, how long do I want to, or how often do I want to be traveling? How much do I want to be traveling? And so I really came up with really was our first boundary between work and home, which was I didn't want to be gone more than 1 week out of the month.
Yeah, because crazy as it is, I like spending time and hanging out with you, honey,
Yeah.
and I really didn't want you to be gone most of the time.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I really didn't want to be either. I mean, I've done my fair share of traveling in corporate and Fortune 500 companies, and it's not all that fun like people think.
It's not as
Because
romantic as people
Yeah,
and
because
glamorous.
yes, we do stay at some great places and great cities and great resorts and all that, but you're working the whole time, so you don't really get to enjoy it.
I would ask you, I'm like, honey, what'd you do today? What's the weather like? And you're, this is in the evening now. And you're like, I have no idea. I've been inside of this conference all day and you have stuff into the evening. You're like, I have not been outside, so I
Yeah,
couldn't tell you what the weather's like.
yeah. So it's definitely not as fun or romantic as people think. I didn't want to be traveling that much, and I put a boundary. And so that was our first boundary, and that's part of what we talk about in the book is creating boundaries between work and home, because that's really where I think through this book tour, we're in about 3 weeks in now with this book tour and talking to all these married entrepreneurs and talking about the book, and that was definitely the key piece I think that is affecting negatively impacting work-life balance for these married entrepreneurs is the lack of boundaries.
Right. I remember someone said the other day that, like, oh, I have no boundaries at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
He almost sounded proud of it.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, no boundaries. So, so this case in point with, for my example about setting that limitation on travel for business is creating that boundary so that majority of the time I am home. Now, when you're in business, and especially we hear this a lot, especially for startups, and when you're in the startup mode, you just want to take whatever business you can get,
Right.
right? And so we understand that, but the reality is when you start off with that mentality, just take what you get, just take, don't turn down any opportunity. That's what leads to imbalance because you're saying yes to everything else in business, which means you're saying no to family life and home life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're taking on and saying and accepting on a professional level, in business, that means that's less time you have at home.
Right. And I've also seen it go when they're just taking on everything in the business, and then a job will come by that they really want, and it's a good fit, but they can't take it on because they're busy doing all these other jobs that they didn't really want just to fill up the time and have some money come in.
Yeah, especially when you're in a service-based business like ourselves, whether you're a consultant or coach or construction, accounting, financial services, whatever, that you're essentially kind of trading time for money. You have to interface with customers, and so inevitably you only have so much time in a day to handle all that, and you can't take every single customer, every single client, even if you wanted to, right? Even if you have a product-based business where you actually have something that can scale, it can grow beyond your time, but whatever type of business you have, there's always some limitations, right?
Yeah, it's a give and take.
Inventory limitations. So in a product-based business or manufacturing, I mean, there's still inventory-based limitations. There's only so much you can produce, right, without having to invest and expand. On the service side, there's only so much time you have to give to customers and to clients.
Right.
And so there's that natural instinct to want to say yes to everything because you never know. There's that FOMO, fear of missing out, that if we don't take this customer, that we're going to lose out, we're going to lose money. But when you set this boundary like I did with travel, it actually acts the opposite, where you reduce the amount of supply, which means in my example be time available to travel, and which means the demand, if the demand's still the same, but you reduce your supply, which means my limitation to travel, then your income level can actually grow. And what does that mean? Is that, well, I can charge more. If you really want me, this is how much I'm going to charge. This is what makes it worth my time to be gone for this week, right? Because I know I only have so much time, and so for those that really want me, they're going to be willing to pay that price. And for those that don't, well, they won't. They won't.
Yeah, and plus a lot's involved with travel. It's more than just getting there and speaking.
Yeah.
It's all the travel, all the prep,
Yeah.
the downtime.
Yeah. And so that really, what that does is, as you increase your price, because you have a limited supply, increase your price. Yes, that means some people are going to say no because maybe you cost too much, but then the right people are going to say yes because they value your time. And again, since you can't serve everybody anyway, you're basically allowing people to self-select out for those that value you and your time and your service. And so really that allowed us to really increase our margin of both money and time. Because one, I just charge more for those travel opportunities, which means now I don't have to travel as much, right? Because I'm only going to travel 1 week out of the month. So I get more time back at home. Right? See how that works? And so really that FOMO, when reacting to the FOMO, the fear of missing out and accepting everything, really what you do is just work a lot for very little sometimes.
And you're wearing yourself really thin with work and with the family.
Yeah. And because you don't want to miss
Burnout.
anything out, that you will negotiate more on price. And a lot of times that negotiation means your price is going to come down. So you're going to work more and earn less, essentially, as opposed to what we're doing was, hey, I don't want to work as much, and not say work as much, but not travel as much, which means I'm going to increase my price for those that do want me to come out, or us these days, right? So yeah, that's essentially like a little teaser in the book is boundaries and how boundaries can help you gain back some time and really allows you to focus on the clients and the things and the projects that are really meaningful to you. You are able to increase your margin of time because again, you're setting boundaries and then also increasing your margin of money or profit because you're able to charge a little bit more. So boundaries helps you get back more time, gain some margins in both time and money, and allows you to focus on the little things, or on, not the little things, but on the things that are most important.
Yeah, like this book tour and writing the book, we really focused on that. So we had to say no to a lot of things that were good. And we had to say no because the timing wasn't right for us right now. Because otherwise we'd never get this book done. And because it took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that was our priority for this season
yeah,
in
yeah.
life.
Definitely, we turned down quite a few things because I knew I had to really, get our head down, get the editing done, get that final manuscript, and all the other things that go along with, approving book cover designs and layouts and all that
Book
kind of stuff. And then
tour.
planning the tour and then going on tour and being gone for 6 weeks, which means we really had to, yeah, had to turn down opportunities
Hmm.
because, yeah, trying to schedule clients or intaking new clients while you're on the road and going through 3 different time zones.
Right. And every 2 days we're in a different city. So
Yeah, exactly.
driving.
Exactly, and they're driving a lot. Yeah, spending a lot of hours on the road. So that was just too difficult, and it wasn't going to be fair to the potential new clients as well as to us as well. And just trying to do it all, right?
Right.
Even when you're on the road, and that's just not good. And that's an issue, right? We're trying to do it all. That's what creates the imbalance for the married entrepreneurs. You're trying to do it all, not just between business and home, but all the other personal things that go
Well,
along with
and
it.
we wouldn't have done it well
Right.
because we want to be there present with our clients and when we're with the family there as well. But we don't want to just kind of like half do it.
Yeah, and that's even like volunteering or people asking you to do them a favor or helping them out to move or I mean there's all kinds of things that maybe coaching little league teams. I mean there's all kinds of things in life beyond the business that are pulling at your time.
Hmm.
And creating boundaries isn't just about the boundaries between business and home, but it's all the other personal items that go along with it,
Yeah, that goes
right?
along with your time.
How much time can you really spend with family? How much time can you really be volunteering? How much time can you be hanging out with friends, right? I mean, there's all these things that we have to start putting together some limitations so that we can make sure we have quality time at home,
Right.
right? And so we got to learn to say no more so that we can spend quality time at home. And again, you look at your calendar and look to see, what's on your calendar and how much it is personal time, family time,
Hmm.
couples time, right? And then you'll be able to see where the imbalance lies is just when you look at your calendar.
Right.
For those of you that actually keep a calendar, for some people it's just in their head, which is probably even more dangerous.
Yeah, especially if you're
Um,
married.
yeah,
Knowing each other's schedules,
yeah.
keeping track of it.
So that's a little bit about the book. Let's outline some of the chapters in this book, honey. I think we've kind of already talked about the pieces of content that's in the book, but let's kind of outline the chapters. And then first of all is just getting on the same page.
Yes, that's huge.
What couple doesn't want to get on the same page? If you feel disconnected, feel like you're going in different places and different speeds, even there's a chapter for you.
Yeah.
Getting on the same page.
And that's not unusual, especially with energy as well. I know you and I have
Yeah.
different takes on energy, levels and how fast we can go. And so,
Yeah. And getting on the same page starts by creating that long term and short term vision for our lives.
right.
We have, a lot of times, we have something, at least a vision in mind for the business, and might even have some semblance of a business plan. For most people, it's in their head, but at least they have something. But how many times do we have a vision and a plan for our personal side?
Right.
And that's where we need to start because we need to create that vision, that big picture vision of our life, and then figure out how does the business fit in.
I thought that's the fun part.
Yeah,
Like visioning together, like, what do you want it to look like?
yeah, that's the creative part because we're reacting to business, so our focus is on the business and trying to grow that, and then we are responding to all the needs of the business.
Hmm.
And then there's not, and all we're doing is reacting to the business, and then whatever's left over, we try to fit in family time within that, as opposed to the opposite. Do the opposite is create your life vision as a couple, as a family, and then find out how does the business fit into that.
Right.
And then we start to develop how do we need to structure or restructure the business in order for it to fit the big vision, the big plan of our life.
So that means including both spouses and talking about these things and coming up with a vision and a dream board and
Yeah.
how to implement it.
Yeah, very, very important to do that. Absolutely. This has to be definitely a joint conversation, a joint vision, a joint plan. and both spouses have to be involved, and especially even on the business side, even if your spouse isn't working in the business, they need to be involved somehow in understanding what's going on, where you're headed, where you might even need help, or where you might just need to talk things through.
Right, and what season you're in, because sometimes, like, if you're going to be super busy, I like to know ahead of time what the expectations are, and then, okay, so when are we going to have time to hang out, and when things aren't as busy, so I can look forward to that and plan accordingly.
Yeah, and then we actually have a chapter on conflict.
Oh, put up your dukes, honey.
Who doesn't like conflict? Eh? For those of you that like to avoid conflict, like me,
And me.
this is a chapter for you. But even if you like to deal with conflict, it's still a chapter for you because sometimes
Do people like?
some people like it,
Yeah,
thrive
you're
on
probably
it.
right.
They're not necessarily good at it, but they just like having conflict.
Yeah, they like crisis, I think,
Yeah, yeah, but they may not be good at it. So,
or creating crisis.
regardless, both of you, both husband and wife, most likely have a different way of dealing with conflict because we come from different backgrounds, different upbringings, right? And that's how we learn how to do conflict is how we're raised at home. And so most likely you're both raised differently, so which means you both have different ways of dealing with conflict, which means the conflict in itself creates conflict because you have
Yes,
different ways of dealing with conflict.
creating conflict.
And creating conflict, yeah, that too. So this is a chapter that's so important because this really lays the groundwork for you as husband and wife to be able to deal with anything and to be able to succeed in anything. Because when you know how to do conflict well, meaning you know how to resolve things to both of your satisfactions, when you're not keeping score or not stuffing something, just trying to avoid it, but then that just stuffs it for a while, and then inevitably it's gonna erupt in some kind of form or fashion, right?
Yeah, because conflict affects both the relationship, the family, and the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can also keep you stuck. We've seen a lot of
Yeah,
people can't get things resolved, and they're
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, we've been fighting about this for 20 years, and we just stuff it under the carpet. We don't talk about it. They have all these things they can't talk about, which makes it really challenging to move the business forward when they're not on the same page
yeah.
and they're not getting things resolved.
Yeah, and especially on the business side, when husband and wives do work together, that's one of the areas we see is probably the most limiting factor in the growth of the business is the husband and wife being able to make joint decisions.
Well, even if they don't work together, if you're not good at resolving conflict, they can keep you stuck as well.
Yeah, I mean, just in life in general, for sure. A little bit on business, but especially when they're working together in the business. I'm talking,
Yes.
as far as talking specifically in the business, growth gets stagnated. And then on the personal side, regardless if they work together or not, growth personally as husband and wife, that definitely gets stagnant as far as growth when you're not on the same page and not able to resolve conflict, not able to make good joint decisions, because inevitably, yeah,
Because we're not working together as a team. We're just
yeah,
looking out for ourselves.
yeah, because on the business side, or well, I guess in life in general, when you're not able to make good joint decisions, that means you guys are kind of starting to drift off in different directions. And either decisions don't get made, so you're stuck, or one spouse is going to go ahead and make the decision for you, regardless of what you think or whatever input you have. And that creates conflict in
Yeah,
itself.
and resentment. And
Yeah, that creates conflict in itself. So I remember talking to, one of our clients, and that was, again, that was an issue. They were really struggling in making joint decisions. And we told them that, look, I'd rather see you make a joint wrong decision than a disjointed right decision. And so what that means is I'd rather see you come together and come in agreement and make a decision, and even if it's the wrong one, versus making the right decision, but it was because of one spouse versus the other.
yeah, it causes a separation in the
Yes.
business and in the
It
marriage.
causes separation. And when one spouse is constantly making a decision for the other one, the moment that they make the wrong decision, it's going to be really bad
Right.
because I told you so, and there's all kinds of stuff. And of course, even in the right decision, as if it's not a unified decision, then it's going to create more animosity. It's just going to add to just the stress in the marriage, right? And going back to the unified wrong decision is most of the decisions you make as husband and wife together, when it's jointly made, most of the time it's going to be the correct one, right?
Yeah. And I just feel like at least you're in unity together.
As you're in unity together, it's more likely it's going to be the correct one. And even if it's the wrong decision, but because you were unified in that, there's no conflict,
Yes.
right? Because it's like, hey, we did this together. It
Right.
wasn't I gave in and said yes by giving in, because when that happens, again, that's still a disjointed decision. Even if you said yes to your spouse, but you really want an agreement, but you're just giving in. Well, again, if that decision becomes the wrong decision, guess what? You're going to the
Yeah.
argument's going to rear its ugly head, and off you go to the races and just another conflict. And so, but yeah, making one, if you're unifying your decision, you're going to make the right decision more often than not. And when the decision doesn't work out, because you're unified in that, you're still going to be unified in a relationship, right? Does that make sense? And so, really, yeah. So, how did we get on that topic? Oh, conflict.
That's probably me,
conflict.
because you know how I like shiny and I get sidetracked.
Yeah,
So.
conflict. And then we get into the business side of things. The last half of the book start really talking about how to get more time back as the business owner.
Yeah,
Again,
this gets really good in the business side.
We're working so much, but how do we get that time back?
Yeah, and sometimes it's a lot smaller things than you think it is.
Yeah.
And they all accumulate and they stack on top of each other and can add up to be substantial.
And getting that time back starts with boundaries. It's not just boundaries between work and home, but even in work, in the business. What kind of boundaries do you create of things that you do versus not do? And, how, and it's been like, again, it goes back to what we said earlier, is in business, we tend to say yes to everything. And so including the stuff that we do on our desk. What do we do on a day-to-day basis in our business? We're taking on everything. We're wearing multiple hats. You've heard that term, right? We're wearing multiple hats. And that's a problem.
Yeah, are you working in the business or are you working for the business?
Or on the business.
On the business.
Yeah. So majority of time, most business owners spend majority of their time working in the business, which means doing all the day-to-day activities that need to be done, but maybe shouldn't be done by you as the business owner. And only about 35% of the time working on the business, which means all the big picture stuff, all the things that you're best qualified for, you're uniquely qualified, and also that you really enjoy.
Yeah, you could be the
And
innovator,
it's
the
productive for the
visionary,
business. Yeah.
getting things moving forward.
Yeah, I remember one engineer, he spent too much time on customer service issues, but he's the engineer, he's the brains behind the operation, and it's a tech business, so he really need to be spending most of the time developing.
Yeah, I remember you just wanted to lock him in a room. And
Yeah, threatened to lock him up in a room.
we're like, no, you don't need to be answering the phone because the things that you're great at, only you can do.
Yeah.
He's the mad scientist.
And there's other people that's helping sales, customer service issues, and all that, but he's the guy that develops. And the less time he has doing that, the slower the growth of the business.
Yeah, because if he's not developing, where are they going? How are they moving forward?
Exactly. So gaining back more time is so important. And so there's some very key steps in the book to be able to do that. And a lot of it really starts with you got to being able to say no to more things. Mm-hmm. And then figuring out ways to delegate or eliminate or even automate the other stuff.
And we're going to give you permission right now. It is okay to say no.
Yeah. It's more stressful on you as the owner when you say no than it is in reality, because we're thinking, oh, if I say no, that means we're missing out. Things at work are going to blow up. We're going to lose sales, which means we're not going to have enough money next week or whatever to make payroll. But more likely than not, you're going to be okay. In fact, a lot of times, again, it goes back to something we said earlier. When you say no to one thing, like a potential customer, you are able to say yes to even a better customer, or a better paying client, or even a better opportunity.
Yeah, we've seen this happen quite often.
Yeah, but when we're saying yes to everything, that means we really limit good opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, it drives me a little crazy. I probably drive you crazy because then I'm trying to do it all and I'm running around like a mad woman and You
Yeah.
don't want to be with my head cut off and
Yeah.
half doing things because I don't have time to do it 100%, give it 100%.
Yeah. And the other chapter that goes along with getting more time back is also gaining some money back, meaning getting more margin, increasing your profit margins. In business, we tend to be too focused on top line revenue, sales and revenue, as opposed to being focused on how we are going to gain profit. We assume that the more sales we make, the more profit we're going to make.
Yeah, and we've had this happen with client before. They were like all upset because they didn't make the top line. And they were in a meeting with you and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We feel horrible. We didn't make our top line. This is miserable. And we're all down
They didn't
and
quite go down
depressed.
that road, but yeah, they were upset that they didn't reach their revenue goals or sales goals, but they were they did better on their profit goals. And so I told them, I was like, well, you should be happy that you I can't even say the word, you outperformed your profit goals. I'd rather see you outperform your profit goals than your sales goals any day, because profits are money in the bank.
Right.
Sales are great, but there's expenses. And so after the expenses, if you don't have enough money left over, who cares? So yeah, we've seen it where you can actually increase in revenue, but actually decrease in profit.
Or get focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah, so if you want to know how that happens, read the book because it happens more often than not. And you can even think about it for your own business. If you feel like you're working more than you ever did, but yet profits aren't showing, the return on effort, then something's going on internally that you need to focus on. And the solution isn't always more sales, which is where most businesses feel that, when their profits aren't good enough, then we figure let's get more revenue. But depending on your margins and if you're discounting and all that, you can actually discount your way and even increase or get and blow up sales, but actually decrease in profits because of your margins. And you're just going to have to read the book to understand how that works, because it happens a lot, and it may even be happening to you right now.
Yeah, we've seen
And
this
so
happen to quite a few
we're
clients.
always looking at how do we increase our margins, being the difference between sales and expenses. Where can you increase your price and where can you reduce expenses? And with the combination of two, you're going to see that big increase in margin that you need.
And a lot of times it's not what you think it's going to look like.
Yeah. And when we talk about decreasing expenses, it's not just about cutting costs per se, but it's actually increasing output. So without increasing the amount of effort and time put in, how do you increase your output? So just for example, if you ever did any kind of digital ads, or ads in general, you invest, say $1 to get $4 in sales, for example. Whatever you invest in marketing, you're expecting some kind of return in sales. And so, like, there's one time a client was spending 30% of their revenue in marketing. And so basically for every dollar they're putting in marketing, they're getting about $3 or $3.50 in return. For every dollar spent, they're getting about $3.50 in return. And that's just a poor return on investment. So we wanted to get it at least 20%, or a 5x return, meaning for every dollar you put in, you're going to get $5 in revenue back. So weren't necessarily decreasing marketing expense per se, but we're trying to increase the return on marketing dollars. And so there's some marketing tricks in there we need to do to increase the output or increase the return on marketing.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't keep track of this stuff.
Yeah. So, and then the last chapter really is about focusing on the little things. If you really want to get big results in your business, it's not about putting in more time, more effort, but it's also about, and it's not about that one thing. Like a lot of times in business, we're looking for that one big marketing campaign or something that is going to be a game changer for your business.
Blow everything up.
Yeah, that viral video or whatever, trending social posts or whatever. But it's usually a series of little changes within the business, and this is the non-fun things.
Yeah, that you do over time.
Like analyzing the metrics and seeing where you can improve. Your marketing dollars, your return on effort, your click-through rates, your email open rates, on-site sales conversions. There's all kinds of things. You got to look at start measuring metrics in the business and looking for the little areas that you can make improvements on. And when you make these, there's going to be a series of, there could be 5 or even 10 small changes you can make that increases your output, increases your return on effort and your return on investment. Just like by increasing your price a little here, decreasing costs over here, increasing your open rates over here. All these little things that you can improve upon will make the big results, which is, a lot of times the bottom line, will lead to the big increase that you're looking for. And it's not just usually one thing, but focus on the little things. That's what that chapter is.
And I'm glad you like to look at all that stuff, honey.
Yeah, because you don't, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little teaser of the book. I mean, if any of this resonates, even if it's just one thing, it's worth spending the money on the book because it's going to create a great return on your marriage and on your business. That, what's $20, right?
Yeah. Plus, you get the workbook, you guys. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the workbook is definitely going to be beneficial for you as husband and wife to really work through and have great conversations around.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Yeah, so thetandembook.com is where you can go to read more about the book, even download the first chapter, but also just go ahead and purchase the book. And honey, before we got on the call, you wanted to give away
I want to
books.
give away our book, you guys, the Kindle. So please email us at info@powercouplesbydesign.com. And the question is, what does work-life balance look like for you and your family and your business? So email in your response, and in a month, we will let you know who the lucky winner is.
Yeah, so it's not just the Kindle. We'll give away the hard copy book if you live in the U.S. because it's not necessarily going to be available shipping-wise and all that. It's going to be really a real hassle. Outside the U.S., we're going to have to give you the Kindle, but within the U.S., we'll give you the paperback version. But definitely, email us, and the email is in the show notes. But email us. What does work-life balance mean to you?
And if you guys, when you get the book, please, when you buy it, please leave us a review on Amazon. We would appreciate it so much, you guys, so that people can find our book easier.
Yeah, it'll really help out a lot. It'll really help out more married entrepreneurs just like you that want help to create greater work-life balance. And also follow us on this tour. We're only halfway through our book tour around the United States. And so if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook and even LinkedIn, but on Facebook and Instagram, it's Power Couples by Design. And you can follow us and see where we're at.
Yeah, and then you can also go on the tandembook.com, and it has all the tours there, and you can see if we're going to be in a
all
city.
The places we're going to be on the tour.
Yes, thank you, honey. And you can see if we're going to be in a place close to you, so you can come meet us in person.
Yep.
That'd be fun.
So so thank you for listening. Well, all these, we're on our 3rd year of the podcast. So for those of you that have been with us for the whole time, thank you so much for listening. And for those of you that are new to us, hopefully you stick with us and learn more of how to create greater work-life balance, because that's really what this podcast is all about. And of course, get the book.
Yeah, thanks so much, you guys. We couldn't have done it without you. We appreciate you.
Thank you for listening. Please share this with a friend, especially if you've listened this far. That means you've got something out of it. So go ahead and share this with a friend, another married entrepreneur couple that you know, and leave us a review.
Yes, that'd be great.
On Apple and Spotify and wherever else they allow you to leave a review, because I know not all podcast players do, but I know those two do. But please leave us a review. That'll help us get found by more married entrepreneurs. And thank you once again, and thank you for joining us on this journey. And until next week, we'll on our next podcast, when it's just Kaylee and I, will even update you on where we are and what we're visiting and how it's going, and if we're still married or not, and some tips that we've been learning on the road. Because I think the previous episode, two podcast episodes ago, we talked a little bit about some of the lessons we've learned. And so the next one we do is going to be some more lessons that we've learned on the road.
Yes.
Right? About each other, about business. And so thank you for listening. And until next time, God bless. And here's to your success. Thank you for listening to the Power Up Your Marriage and Business podcast. If you found this episode to be valuable, please leave a rating and share it with an entrepreneur couple you know.
Yes, and remember to hit the subscribe button so that you'll get all of our latest episodes, and visit our website, Power Couples by Design, to access a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business, like our weekly videos and on-demand webinars. And don't forget to download our free 8-step guide that you can find on our homepage to help your marriage and business thrive.
We're here to help you build a thriving marriage and a prosperous business. God bless your marriage and business. See you next week.